The FBI has also brought in a critical response group from Quantico. They have a team processing social media evidence and phone and digital footprints. As for the physical evidence, our Fox flight team captured this video of two broken floodlights next to a back patio door on Nancy Guthrie's property. The FBI says the potential ransom note mentioned a broken floodlight. These are the ones we were able to spot.
There was information that NBC News has received regarding a vehicle that may possibly be connected to the investigation into the disappearance of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie.
Yeah, Juliet, that second message was sent earlier this morning by email to the local CBS affiliate here in Tucson. They quickly reviewed it and passed it off to the FBI, who in that joint statement with the Sheriff's Department confirmed receipt of it and that they're now working to validate it. As you mentioned, they did not disclose the contents within, and it is unclear if it is linked to that ransom note that was emailed to the same local affiliate on Monday night. We do know yesterday in a press conference, the FBI confirming they are taking it seriously. Specific details were contained within, including an Apple Watch located within the home.
There's been some updates going on. First of all, there's a second ransom note, okay, that came in today to the local station in Tucson who received the first one. Not only that, there's possibly a car that they're looking at that might be connected. They don't know if it is connected, but they're looking at a car. And I spoke to an inmate who's currently doing life, and this inmate, all he did was abduct people. Now, it was in a different country. We're going to get to that. He's actually serving time here in America, but I asked him some questions, and some of those answers are terrifying. Fugitive TV, stay tuned. Welcome to Fugitive TV. I am your host, Ray Marcel. We take a look at cases, unsolved mysteries. We do true crime here, missing people, as in Nancy Guthrie right now. But we actually take a look at these cases sometimes from a different perspective because I was once a fugitive on the run from the law myself. That's why it's called Fugitive TV. So I'm able to give you some sort of insight or little details that maybe other people can't see because they have not been on that side of the fence before. Well, I've already done maybe 3-4 videos on Nancy Guthrie. Now, and for you people that have been in my live, we've had extremely good lives and good information come out in these lives while we're doing them. But today, what we're going to talk about is there's a second ransom note. The second ransom note was delivered, okay, to the same station that got the first ransom note. Now, the note came digitally email. So it wasn't like paper, but email, just like the first one, just like the first ransom note that went to TMZ. Okay. Now, they're not giving really no details on this second ransom note, but here is the odd thing. Right after the second ransom note that we know got delivered, FBI went and shut down the whole block pretty much, or the road where Nancy lives at. Now, from the get-go, I said it was a mistake for the police to leave the house, okay? They processed the scene, but then they left the house and it was a free-for-all. And all these reporters, everybody's up there stepping on evidence, filming the blood splatter that's on the porch, all kind of stuff, contaminating things. And guess what? Now they're back. But today they're actually shutting down the whole road. Okay. And today you saw them on the roof of the house. They're doing a thorough investigation. Now, I don't know if the second note has anything to do with them going back to the house and pretty much just shutting down the operation from all these reporters and, you know, processing things. That I don't know. I also heard there's security there at night now, too. Well, I guess we will find out soon.
Reporter Eric Leonard, you've been covering this case since it first broke Saturday. Yeah,
Today is really, I think, the first day where we've seen what appears to be some significant progress in the case in two different places. The first is one of the television stations in Tucson, one of the stations that received one of these first mysterious possible ransom demands, received another communication, another electronic message that the authorities there, both the FBI and the Sheriff's Department, have said they want to investigate and examine the wording, the sourcing, and possibly some other material that came with it. I was just going through some of the reporting from Tucson, the station that received it. Some of the employees who looked at it, they characterized it as not a ransom demand, but for whatever other reason, this is apparently, they believe, sent from the same source as the original one. Now, keep in mind, as we've been reporting on this all week long, the FBI, which is looking at these potential ransom demands, has not yet said that they know for certain these are legitimate.
I'm still gobsmacked at how quickly the crime scene was released. This isn't a house where you've got a bunch of young children, they need to get back to their lives and that stuff. I don't understand that. Now, it's easy for me to sit here looking at the house in my comfortable couch and say, well, law enforcement should be doing this or not doing that. But in this instance, this is the third, fourth, or fifth time they've had to go back to that house. It's a 3,100 square foot house. That is a crime scene. There's still dried blood spatter material on the front porch. I'm shocked by that. Now, this new note, I'm learning about it, obviously, as we are right now on News Nation. And could this be some type of proof of life? Of course. But here, lastly, this is what boggles the mind. These abductors are doing everything that kidnappers don't do. They're going through the media. They're not back-channeling to the family. And that's what makes this odd.
Now, they are also potentially looking at a car that possibly could be connected with it. They're not saying if the car is connected or the car is not connected. There's a reporter that's at a Circle K, and the police were there at the Circle K getting some information, maybe getting video footage. And supposedly, I guess it was a tip that came in about this car. So they've been receiving tons, probably thousands and thousands of tips. And they have to investigate each tip to see if each tip is legit or not. But they are checking out a car. So we are going to see exactly where this car leads.
We were given that information, and our network asked us to come and check out the possible location. And this is where we are standing right now. This is a Circle K, and I'm going to stand back. First of all, this is the parking lot in question. There are no vehicles here as you look at the parking lot that are believed to be possibly related and or connected. But just a short time ago, there were two sheriff's deputies that were here in parked vehicles of their own, taking notes, finishing up whatever they were doing. I asked them if they could comment. They said we certainly cannot. Inside of the Circle K, they said that they are not allowed to be commenting at this point. But this is what we know. Again, NBC News had become aware of a search by law enforcement for a vehicle or vehicles, again, may or may not be connected to the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. Officials have not said if the vehicle has been definitively connected to any part of a crime or if actually that lead has since been evaporated.
The sheriff, they said they're not going to be doing any more like updates or anything like that, right? But during the last press conference they had, I thought it was just me, but it wasn't just me. I'm realizing other people saw this too. The timeline changed. Now, if you remember when this story first broke, Sunday, and some of us started hearing about it Monday morning, okay? The sheriff told us that what was the reason the family went to the house in the first place? Do you guys remember? The church saw that Nancy wasn't attending, and they called the family members. Well, for one, Nancy hasn't been to church since COVID. She's been attending online. Now, I haven't attended their services online, but doing my research, far as I know, it's not a Zoom. So it's not like your face will show up on Zoom. It's similar to a live chat. That's what it's similar to where there's a stream going on, and then maybe there might be a chat on the side. I am not sure. But they're saying somebody said she didn't show up to church. So if it is a live chat, did somebody notice that maybe she wasn't commenting? Maybe she comments all the time. I'm not sure. If there is no live chat, let's say there is none, because they're not confirming there's a live chat or not. I just know for a fact there's no like Zoom. They just kind of stream it. So if there is no live chat, how does somebody know that she wasn't, looking at the stream? Okay. Well, the family went to the house. Now we all know the family either has to be Tommaso or Annie. It has to be one of the two or both of them, because Savannah doesn't live there, and then the brother doesn't live there either. They live 10 minutes down the road. Annie and Tommaso, they live 10 minutes down the road, so they're the closest, right? So they show up at the house. Now, if you remember the first timeline, they said 911 was not called, okay, until what was like an hour and 5 minutes later. And then for those of you that were in my live, I said that made no sense. Why would it take them an hour and 5 minutes to call 911 if there's blood on the front porch and then there's blood inside the house? All right. And then I said, unless they maybe went through the garage and didn't see the blood on the porch and they're looking for her, but still, I know the house is 3,000 square feet, but it wouldn't take you an hour to look through a house to find your 84-year-old mother. It's not like she's hiding in the cabinets, So I thought about that. Well, when they did the new timeline, if you realize the new timeline, they're saying the family showed up at the house like 11:57 a.m. and then called the 911. What was it, like 7 minutes later? That's what the new timeline is. So that gap of that hour that the sheriff first gave us is vanished now. That gap is mysteriously gone.
The timeline was changed dramatically on Sunday morning. What this sheriff had been saying to us before was that at 11 o'clock or just after 11 a.m. on Sunday morning, the family was notified by a friend in the church who noticed Nancy didn't attend, and they went over to her house, and about an hour later, they called 911. That was the story this whole week.
That created a lot of consternation.
Then we got to the... And many people said, why did it take an hour? How do you, like, especially seeing blood outside of the house, like Brian Enton got on camera, who would take an hour? Now, then last night, or yesterday at the presser, that totally shifted. He said they got to the house and discovered she was missing at 11:57 a.m. So we've lost a whole hour now, the controversial hour, and called law enforcement 5 minutes later at 12:03.
Yeah, I think it was 7 minutes later.
Sorry, my math is off.
By the way,
my math is off. Okay,
7 is lightning fast.
That's fast. Okay, so it's a dramatic difference. But here, let's just listen. Here's what he had said prior to yesterday. This was the story, SOD 18.
Sometime earlier that morning, they got a call from somebody at the church who said, hey, your mom's not here. The family went to the house. I'm thinking they spent some time looking for her themselves before they called us. So I'm guessing maybe they got there around 11. So they did some searching and realized we need some help, and they called 911.
She was dropped off at 9:30, and she was found to be missing at about 11 o'clock Sunday morning.
I know that when we got there, the family was already there, and they had already spent some time looking, as you would expect. Probably we got an hour delay there from them. Not anything intentional, just that, they went and looked and made some calls, and then they decided we better call 911.
And at 11:56 a.m., the family checks on Nancy and discovers her missing. And at 12:03 p.m., 911 is called in to the Pima County Sheriff's Department.
What? Because just to underscore it here, first they got a call from a friend at the church around 11:10. Then he says it was at about 11. Then he told you, that middle clip is on your show. He says they found out about 11, and it was about an hour delay before they called 911. Now, yesterday, he says they checked on Nancy and discovered her missing at 11:57. right? Is it I keep
57.
57,
No, that's the right
53?
number.
I don't have
That's
it
the
in
right
front of me.
number.
Yeah, 57. So what do you mean? Because we've also, in the midst of all that, had both the Daily Mail and Brian Entin yesterday told us as well, reporting that Nancy Guthrie wasn't going to church physically anymore and hadn't been since the COVID pandemic, that she'd been joining the live stream the church offers and participating from her home. Moreover, the Daily Mail reports it wasn't a Zoom situation where the congregants could see who was joining virtually. It was just a live stream being blasted out by the church, outgoing only. And therefore, no one would be aware of whether Nancy was participating or not.
I don't know why the gap is gone. I can give you maybe some speculation why the gap is gone, but I really don't know what happened. And like I said, I'm not the only one who saw that and was like, hold on, what happened with this? The other thing is, I brought this up in my other video. They told you the time the garage door opened, and then 2 minutes later, the garage door closed. But they never told you if the garage door opened again the next day when the family showed up. They never said that. So if the family did show up and open the garage door, that would be recorded as well. If the family showed up and went to the front door, they would have saw the blood on the ground. I don't know. It's just some details that I peeped out, okay? I don't know if this leads to anything or it doesn't lead to anything. Who knows? I do know that Tommaso and Annie bought their home last year in May. They bought their home for $659K, all right? The house they were living in before, all right, they sold it for, I think it was $350K. So they pretty much doubled almost the value of a house, leaving one house and moving to the next one. Now, did they get that much money in cash? I'm not sure. I couldn't see that part. I don't know, all right? Now, I do know the new home is not paid off. There is a mortgage on the home. Tommaso was a 6th grade teacher, all right? So I'm wondering how they were able to afford that $659K house, especially when you add in taxes and anything else that needs to be done, okay? I'm just wondering, all right? People could have helped them because they do have a family member, as in Savannah, who's a multimillionaire. We all know, okay? Multimillionaire, all right? She's making at a minimum $8 million a year, so she could have helped them. We don't know. But a 6th grade teacher, a person who was trying to be a rock star back in 2007, who formed a rock band. I don't know how long the rock band lasted, but $659K for a house, the math doesn't math when it comes to that, all right? Especially if, depending on how much they put down. I also found out, well, I didn't find out. One of my researchers, Julia, she found out that Nancy's house, if you go and look at it, for some reason, back in October of 2024, that house was put up for sale for 3 or 4 days for $950K, but then the house was taken down. Now, that could be a mistake. It could be somebody signed into Zillow, or they signed in and they're messing around, didn't realize their house was for sale. Then they got some calls from a realtor. Hey, your house is for sale. Because if you put your home for sale on Zillow, you will start getting calls immediately, especially if it's not listed on the MLS. Okay. So could have been a mistake. They could have got a call. Hey, we see your house. Oh, I made a mistake. Let me change that in Zillow. But I don't know. I figure I bring you all these little things that has been found and then let you guys figure it out, okay? Now, I'm going to get into this conversation that I had with an inmate, all right? I can't tell you his name. I can't even tell you where he was locked up from, all right? Or I should say what state or anything he's in. Now, I can tell you he's in America serving time and he's doing life, so he's never going to get out. He's not originally from here. He's from South America, all right? So it was kind of hard to understand him, but he's originally from South America. I had a brief conversation with him on the phone. I promised him I would not record the call, even though the call is recorded, but on their end, not my end, but I promised him I would not record the call and I would not give up his identity because as an investigative journalist, I have to keep my integrity for the next person that wants to talk to me. But I took down notes and I can tell you guys exactly what he said. All right. Because this guy has held some hostages and abducted some people. It is scary. All right. So let me get into that.
No, not at all. It's again given to the FBI. They've got this, and we'll let them go. Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
All right. So I got my notes here, and I'm going to read to you guys the questions I asked him and how he replied to them. Okay. So the first thing I asked him was, why would someone take someone hostage, or take someone for ransom? He says it's always going to be two things, money or revenge. And if it's revenge, most of the time it started over money. Then he starts explaining, because let's say you borrowed something from somebody, a loan shark, and then you never paid that person back. All right. Now you got to get revenge on them, but it's over money. He also said it could have been something that another person has done to somebody else. All right. And the thing that person did to him, maybe it was over money. So now they got to come back and pretty much take revenge. But he said a lot of times, even when it is revenge, the revenge starts from money. He said you also have love or lust, but usually you're not taking somebody hostage over love or lust. Usually you're unaliving them right there on the spot and maybe dumping their body off somewhere, and you're calling it a day, and you're not sending any ransom notes. You're not calling any family members. You're just on your way. All right. Then I asked him, I said, well, who would be the target if it is revenge or money? Would you be, taking the person hostage who's responsible, the person who owes you the money? He said no. He said they hardly ever took anybody who was actually responsible. He said they always went after someone they cared about, or someone they loved, or it could have been something they loved. All right. And he said a person that is very important to them, someone they love, wife, or even sometimes a child. He hardly ever took the person who was responsible, because that person's worst fear is them causing a family member or loved one to get hurt over what they did or over their actions. And not only that, if you take the person who is responsible, they have all the money. It's hard to get the money if you take the person that has the money. So you have to hurt that person emotionally to the point they will pay you or do anything that you're asking for. I asked him how many times has he done this? He didn't give me a number. He just said a lot. All right. He said a lot. Then I asked him, I said, well, would you send a ransom note? When would you send it? He said, it all depends. If I need to take the hostage somewhere safe, he or they would send a message after they get to where they're going with the person or the thing. Because he said sometimes not even a person, sometimes you're taking something they love. It could be something, okay? He said, when you contact with them, it can be digital, which is the fastest and also leaves no witnesses. And I asked him, what do you mean by leaving witnesses? He said, well, or it can be by a carrier, but the carrier has to be a trusted soldier or someone who is disposable. I asked him what he meant by disposable. After that, he said he wasn't going to comment. So I guess you guys can take what you want when it means by somebody that has to be disposable or a trusted soldier. He said sometimes we would not need to leave a note. We would leave something in the house or room or area that when a loved one enters, they will automatically know. So the people who have done something wrong or the one who is actually responsible will automatically know when they walk in the room that something is not right. So what he was saying by that is sometimes there wouldn't even be a note. When they did it, they would just leave something, I guess. And then that person that, I guess that did something wrong will walk in and automatically know. And I said, would you keep them alive? He said, that depends on the power of the people's family. This is where it got very interesting. If they have an extreme amount of power and brute force, then they will stay alive because they wouldn't want an all out war. If they were weak, we would collect. And then sometimes still, he said the M word, but here on YouTube, we can't say the M word, especially on a small channel like mine, because it gets flagged. He said if they are weak, we would collect and still unalive them, but dump the body off at a place they can find the body. I asked him, why would they do that? Why would he do that? Why not just give them back alive? He said, we would want to show we have all the power. We want to drain the cash or bank. If they have no money or little money, it's harder for them to counterattack. Attacking someone takes money, especially when you're attacking a group of people. It takes money, people, weapons, and bullets, which all takes money. But if we drain them plus take a loved one, it will crush and destroy the family. So it all depends. So he was saying it will all depend. So he was saying sometimes they would still take the money, unalive the person, and just dump them off. That is insane. That is crazy. But he said it just all depends on the power of the individuals that they took the person from. I asked him after that, where would you take a hostage? He said, to a place where it's safe for us, a place where we have an eye on the street and an eye on the sky. I asked him if he can, elaborate that. He would not. He would not elaborate that. How many people does it take? He said, we would go with the minimum of 2 people, at the most 4. It depends on who the person is. We would never go with more than 4 people, but it all depends. And then I asked him, well, did they do, where would they get the information from to even get this individual at a certain time? This is when it became interesting. We would get the information from inside a family member, friend, or somebody who was bitter and felt you did them wrong. A lot of times it is a friend or family member, especially people who need money and they feel you have not helped them and you have money. We would give them an extreme amount that they never seen before, and they most of the time take it. It can be even a neighbor on the same street. Wow. He said they would get information from a family member or a friend, somebody that is bitter towards you, which means jealous, envy. You have all this money, you're rich, you're a millionaire, and maybe you're not helping them, or maybe they feel you haven't helped them. We all have that family member, and I can see this. We all have that family member or friend. Once you start doing good in life, maybe you help them a little bit, you give them, but they still have their hand out. They're not helping themselves type of person. We all know that individual. So then after a while, they start feeling bitter, like, oh, he's changed, or he did. I have a couple in my inbox right now. He's changed. He did this. He's done that. No, I haven't changed. I'm just not your dad. I'm not going to support you 24/7. You got to help yourself. So I can understand that is a lot. Now, after that, he couldn't answer any more questions. He had to go. All right. But this person, what he was doing, he's from South America. Okay. And he used to deal with a lot of drug dealers. Okay. He was in that game. And what would happen was it wasn't no nickel and diming drug dealers. It was drug dealers sometimes who were politically affiliated, and they were big people. And what would happen is a lot of times these people would owe money or owe something. And what he would do was he would go and take something they love and then hold them. All right. He came up here to the States, and I'm not going to display everything he got in trouble for because he asked me not to. Because like I said, I can't even say his name, so I don't want to give any clues of who he is. And I'm not going to do that. But he came up here, and now he's serving life. All right. So this was very interesting. He's not the only person I've talked to inmate wise when it came to a case. All right. So this is something you're going to get a little different when you watch my channel. But sometimes I will reach out to an inmate or an individual who has done this before. Unfortunately, because I have spent time behind those walls, 2 years myself, or a little under 2 years. I was sentenced to a boot camp prison, but the first year I was in a regular prison, max. All right, max, meaning you're on 23-hour lockdown, 1 hour out, and I'm in there. 30-40% of people are violent. All right, violent, and I'm one of the only ones who wasn't violent. But because I was in there, I was able to see how these people think. I was able to process information that they gave me because I would talk to them on a daily basis, and I was able to see certain things in certain ways that some of these other people can't see. And because of that, I can also reach out to certain individuals to get contact information or to leave contact information for them to contact me about certain things, all right? As long as I keep them private. Well, I don't know if this helps. I don't know if this doesn't help, but I figure I would give you guys this information and let you process this yourself. And you guys can tell me what you think.
Let's get to your reporting, because it was very clearly the gorilla in the room yesterday at that presser, where it came up 3 different times, 4 total, with the sheriff saying, we have no suspects, no persons of interest, and then some broadsides, quite clearly, I thought, at you. I think you agreed. I watched your show this morning without naming you. Everyone there, even the sheriff, said, no one's been cleared. Everyone's a suspect. So it is not inappropriate to start where all law enforcement starts, which is with the family, and work out. That's what you're doing. You would be doing that even if your law enforcement source had not said that the brother-in-law may be the prime suspect. It's not inappropriate to ask questions about the family. It's actually imperative. So here's what the sheriff said. Let's listen to SOT 19B.
Nobody's eliminated, but we just really don't have enough to say, this is our suspect, this is our guy, we know, or our gal. We just don't know that. And it's really kind of reckless to report that someone is a suspect when they could very well be a victim. It just, I bring to you, to the media, I plead with you to be careful of what it is we put out there, because we don't have anybody here listed as a suspect, and you could actually be doing some damage to the case, but you can do some damage to that individual too. This is social media is kind of an ugly world sometimes.
Now, with that information, a lot of us were looking at the son-in-law, Tommaso, and you know what? It could still make sense if you really think about it, especially of what he said. He said they never went after the person who was responsible. So let's say, for example, let's say Tommaso did something to somebody, caused something, owed somebody some money. Who knows? Like I said, they just purchased this new house a year ago for $659K, doubled the house where they just left, and he's only a school teacher. I don't know. Okay. I'm not saying he did it. We know he probably physically, maybe, we don't know, but didn't take her, because far as we know, he's not locked up, far as we know, unless they're not telling us this.
Your exclusive reporting broken 2 days ago now that
3 things.
top law
I think we're
enforcement
at 3.
official
Yeah, real early on.
3, okay, who's an impeccable source, told you that Tommaso Cioni, who is married to Annie Guthrie, Savannah's sister, may be the prime suspect in this case.
At this time.
And that the car that was towed and impounded was Annie Guthrie's car.
Yeah, the word that was used was towed and taken into evidence. I noticed that was actually confirmed yesterday. Car was towed and is being processed as per warrant.
What if something was done to where he was responsible? or maybe gave out some information, because they said you usually would get a family member or a friend to give out information, especially if you give them money that they've never seen before. Very interesting. And not only that, it could be a neighbor down the street or down the road. But whoever did this, they got a lot of information because they knew the layout of the house. They knew how to take the Ring camera. All right. For example, I do know for a fact when somebody has a Ring camera, if they have it on the front, sometimes they won't have it on the back, right? They won't have it on the back. So some people, what they'll do is they'll go through the back, open the door, and then just take their hand around and take the Ring camera off. Ring camera will go off because your hand's there, but your face ain't there because they're coming around the door and taking it off. Now, I do know she didn't have Ring camera. She had what is called Nest cameras by Google. The reason why they can't get footage because she didn't pay the subscription. And I believe the subscription is like $10 a month or $100 a year, something like that. And it keeps the footage. But if you don't pay the subscription, what happens is it's almost like Snapchat. If you guys use Snapchat, almost the same way, to where it'll show you the footage if somebody walks by or somebody comes up, and that footage will only sit there for a certain length of time. And then after a while, it gets deleted because you're not paying the subscription. All these companies have a cloud, right? And there's only so much room in a cloud. And that's how they keep the so much room in the cloud going, basically, is by who's not paying their subscription, yours gets deleted from the cloud within a certain length of time. So, and I think I said this in my last video, did somebody have access to the app to control the subscription and turn the subscription off a long time ago because they knew this was coming or knew what to do? I don't know. But I do know is there's a car in evidence right now that supposedly belongs to Annie or Tommaso. They're not saying which one or both of them. They took evidence out their house. And not only did they take evidence out the house, they also brought a machine out the house, okay? That I'm pretty sure nobody's never seen before. And this machine, what this machine does, it collects every single digital DNA footprint that's in your house. It collects it. It collects phone calls, text messages, anything you did digital wise. They brought that out the house, meaning they bring it in the house to probably collect everything. Because if they already had that machine in the house, then there's definitely a red flag. So I highly doubt that. That machine is something FBI agents would use and things like that. And one thing that the inmate did tell me was that he also said that even if police or FBI is to get involved, because remember the people he was dealing with was high power, had money. A lot of times they would have their own data analysis people. So if you did try and send a threat via email, they have their own data analysis people. They can trace your IP address. So he said a lot of the time, if they had some sort of communication, there would be some sort of blocking system every single time. And not only that, sometimes they'll send them on a wild goose chase to where the IP address will pin here, pin here, pin here. By the time you figure it out, they're long gone. Long gone. I also asked, could she be in Mexico? He said, possibly. I said, how hard is it to get it over there? He said, piece of cake. That's exactly what he said. Piece of cake. So, like I said, I don't know if any of this helps, but I figure I will give you guys this information. Let me know what below. What do you think? Do you still think the son-in-law has something to do with this? All right. Even if he didn't do it physically, do you think he has something to do with this? All right. Do you think anything else? This is odd. My last video, Savannah's in the Epstein files, interviewed somebody who supposedly gave a lot of information. The interview never came out. Does that have anything to do with it?
Guys, some new information. This is actually coming from President Trump. He is on Air Force One and he was asked about the Nancy Guthrie investigation. Okay, I'm going to read you this. Trump said, "We have some clues that I think are very strong, and I think we could have some answers coming up fairly soon." And the reporter said, "Is this a nationwide search? Is this a search going to Mexico?" And Trump said, "No, I'm not talking about a search. I'm talking about a solution. We have some things I think that will maybe come out reasonably soon from DOJ or FBI or whoever that could be." And the reporter said, "A suspect?" And Trump said, "Yeah, could be definitive." So according to President Trump, something may be happening big behind the scenes, which would coincide with what we're seeing out here at the scene, because as I told you, they've moved everybody back. The FBI is back on the scene, and they're doing a whole big, what they called an investigation, and the FBI evidence collection team is there. And then at the same time, we found out about this second note related to Nancy Guthrie that was sent to a TV station in Tucson. So a lot going on, but really interesting to hear those new comments from President Trump.
This is very odd. And you know what? Even though the FBI is on this case, the FBI, I'm pretty sure, is not used to this stuff. I am pretty sure. I bet you want to ask them, when's the last time they had to deal with something like this? So the people that's on this case right now, even though it's the FBI, not a lot of experience. I'm pretty sure. All right. Well, you guys let me know. If you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe, especially if you like my viewpoints and how I present. If you're returning, you've been helping me. I'm almost at 20,000 subs. Let's get my channel 20,000 subs, people. I am almost there. I'm 1,000 away, I think. Let's go. You guys been rocking with me since day one. I love it. The Fugitive TV merch is down below or to the side. I have the Ray Marcel collection. Not only that, membership. So when we do the chat, I will shout you out first. Not only that, I do videos for the memberships just for members. Hey, Fugitive TV. Take care of one another. Please be aware of your surroundings. My contact info is usually always in the box below. And I am out.